So, Sheikh, as was communicated via the...
Just to let you know, we are recording this, okay? Okay, that's fine. Carry on, yes.
Okay. All right, so Sheikh, as we communicated via the emails, the idea behind this meeting is really, first of all, to get confirmation about the statements. Although I think that even based on what you were saying in the last meeting, I think you are quite pleased with the way the transcripts have been done, and I think perhaps we can just say that yes, this is confirmation, and go on to the next stage, which is really contextualization and clarification.
Sure.
But even really, for this particular meeting, we were thinking that perhaps just a few minutes on each of the main points, each of the main topics mentioned in those transcripts, and then at a later stage we can have a more in-depth discussion. So the idea was that Sheikh Murtaza Ali Dina would mainly be listening and just hearing your contextualization and clarification.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine. So what I suggest is we take now. I don't think it's going to take long. That exercise. Although I have not heard the places from which this has been taken, these clips have been taken, but I do know this is my language, and I do know that these are my ideas. So, and I trust, and I do know that whoever's transcribed it has done it with a lot of integrity. So I would say yes, these are mine. So I accept that. Okay. And the other thing I'm saying is that why don't we go through the whole thing? Because I don't think it will take long compared to, considering what it is that you want. Yes. So let's just go through the whole thing, and then we can do whatever you gentlemen decide to do with it. So if somebody can just read them out from your side, if that's okay, and then I will then give a brief response to that, if that's acceptable.
Particularly when you like to start with, or
no. Let's. Can I suggest we go through it from number one right till the end? From number one, we'll work through the whole paper.
Okay, fine. I'll just get it up here.
Thank you. It's not going to take long, inshallah.
Okay. Right. So number one, are we equal? Public discussion. That's the YouTube clip there. Okay. We will find that a man wakes up as a male, a person wakes up as male and goes to bed as a female, because gender change would be available. And a female may sleep at night as a female and may decide to wake up as a male. Yes? We are actually genderless. And in the futuristic society, we might actually find that the whole notion of male, females, rights, so on and so forth, takes on a very different understanding.
So my understanding is that we are a-religious, in the sense that we are religious neutral. Religion neutral, we are culture neutral, and we are gender neutral as human souls. We can change our genders as we can change our religion, as we can change our culture. The identity of the soul is beyond gender, culture, and religion. So here I'm saying in a futuristic world, yes? And the discussion was on the notion of rights and what determines rights. And I'm saying the roles of genders change. Not only the roles of gender change, gender may become very, very fluid in a future world that we are advancing towards. And at that time we will have to rethink the whole notion of the rights of male, the rights of female, when there is so much fluidity in gender, and we begin to realize that the soul is genderless in essence. That is what I was trying to get at, and I assume it was a prelude to the whole discussion of female rights. So, shall we move on to the second one?
Okay. Number two, are we equal? Public discussion. Who empowers the women? Yes, you are right. It is very unfair that in Islam, it's a male-dominant religion in which man make the decision of what rights women ought to have. In democracies, yes, at least it's a bit more advanced. Of course, and male minds are still manipulating female minds, even here. And you might not want to hear this, but at least the women can vote, yes, and say no, we demand this, and we have to go go down that route where people have the right to determine their own state of existence and their future. The Muslims need to go down that route, and the Sharia needs to relent and allow for this. Sharia, so let me just read that. The Muslims need to go down that route, and the Sharia needs to relent and allow for this. Sharia, as I said, has no finality, yes? It's always in line with the existence and the nature of existence, any given state and any given context.
My fundamental view is that the Muslim identity is marked by the devotional and the spiritual aspects of Islam. As far as every other aspect is concerned that we broadly categorize in muamalat, the only exclusion I make are the edibles, yes, the consumables, The consumables, the haram and halal, need to be adhered to, and in addition to that, the laws of decency. What is decent, what is indecent? Do not marry your mother, so that is indecent. Do not marry two sisters, so on and so forth. Apart from that, every form of social interaction, intercourse, action, whatever we consider, Sharia fundamentally has no input in that, save to regulate them in a fair manner and to minimize abuse. So when the Prophet of Islam came to the human community, we already had contract law. We already had the understanding of what marriage is, of what divorce is. The Prophet in that context gave the law of muamalat as a transient law befitting that society. Similarly with slavery. That slavery was there, it was accepted at that time, and so on and so forth. So he dealt with it and regulated it. But there was no finality in the muamalat that the Sharia is giving. Indeed, the Sharia initially does not give muamalat, it just comes to regulate the existing contract forms that are there and to bring them in line with fairness and reduction of abuse. So today, now, we find within our legal tradition, women are not allowed to become part and parcel of the juristical reasoning, where they can understand their own situation, they can derive the laws in accordance with their own understanding and interpretation. Therefore, you have female marital rape is allowed. Yes, according to the very narrow reading of the Sharia. Again, divorce is in the hand of the man, and a woman may not divorce, so on and so forth. They cannot become leaders of society because of the law of hijab. As Sayyid al-Khuy says in his Bahath of female judges, he says there is no evidence that can suggest that they cannot. And he contrasts, he challenges every evidence, and he says these are all based on analogies. That a woman cannot be an imam, it's nothing to do with a woman not being a judge. But he said, due to...
Sorry, Sheikh, did you say analogies there?
There is no finality to the Sharia contract system, yes? To muamalat, there is no finality, they're always fluctuating. Just as slavery is abolished nowadays, and nobody will say that slavery is a part and parcel of the Sharia teaching. So Sayyid al-Khuy would say that because her role, because she's in hijab and tahajjub, and so her role is Rabbatul Bayt, and she should not come out in public. So here I'm saying it's unfair that the women do not have any say in understanding what their rights are in Islam, and only the men are deriving it. And in contrast, I'm saying at least in democracy, I'm not saying that democracy and Sharia are one and the same thing. I'm saying at least in democracy they have somewhat of a right to determine their own destiny, what they can become, what they can't become. But even then I'm saying that the male minds are deceiving women within Western democracies as well. That's all that I wanted to say in a nutshell, that ibadat are fixed, muamalat are fluctuating.
Number 3. The other thing we said was that the Sharia does not add anything to the system of rights when it comes to human beings. The Sharia just informs us as to the best way possible to organize ourselves in any given context. When we are in this country here, just think about what I'm saying. Don't be appalled by what I'm saying. What need is there for nikah when there is civil marriage? The Prophet said, the likulli qawmin nikah, that civil marriage is nikah, and where there is a divorce, what need is there for a religious divorce after that?
I have just committed a little bit of an article to this particular thing. It follows on from the previous one, that the Sharia fundamentally does not originally give us the laws of muamalat. Yes? The talaq, the nikah that we have in Islam, and the system of talaq that we have, that the man gives 3 talaqs to a woman, that Surah Baqarah has, this was from the time of Hazrat Ismail. As far as the khula is concerned, it was from the time of Jahiliyyah. Islam merely took on these contracts that were already there and regulated them to make them more fair and less abusive. So fundamentally, Islam does not have a say in muamalat, but only to the extent of regulating them in the best possible manner. So here in this country, when there is a civil marriage, it acts as a nikah, because nikah, bottom line, is consent of 2 people who are consenting. And if you look at the word of nikah, if you look at the fatwa, if you want to, it is basically ankahtu and qabiltu. That's about it. It's a contractual agreement between 2 people. And when there is a civil divorce, there should be no need for talaq. Unless, of course, in a country the nikah and talaq system works, then in that country nikah and talaq system works, because there is relativity in the world. Many different regions have their own norms and have their own contract law. That's all I'm trying to say. So registration marriage is as good as nikah, and a civil divorce is as good as talaq. A woman does not need to wait at the mercy of a man or a mujtahid to give a talaq, and then she has to wait 4 or 5 years for it. Yes, that was the question that was being raised.
Number 4, the physical covering, the whole regulation of covering is contingent to male attitudes towards exposed female bodies. What that means is that the hijab as a female covering, the physical scarf in itself, may not be an immutable universal regulation. Yes? Hijab, in the way we're understanding, may not be wajib in the way we understand it. That's the first thing. So of course, when women are being abused or physically abused, then they should not wear a scarf that invites such abuse and animosity. They can resort to different forms of covering, as has been suggested, or not wearing it at all. Yes? However, the real hijab, I just want to point this out, is, as we understand, modesty, the way we behave and the way we dress generally.
So now Ali will pass you an article that I've written on hijab, a full article. It's a 10,000 words article that talks about the whole notion of covering coming from the Assyrians and so on and so forth, and in which I've analyzed the words of Sayyid al-Khuy and come to my own understanding of contextual understanding of hijab and hijab in the broader context, in which my final conclusion was that the covering must be upheld as Islam is ordaining, but women should be given discretion to discard any part of it as and when necessity requires. Yes? The whole question there was of abuse of women due to Islamophobia in the current climate. And I'm saying hijab is not just a covering, it's also the attitude as well. Women cannot just cover their bodies in tight garments. They have to be, let's say, looser garments, and there has to be modesty. Similarly, women cannot cover themselves in loose garments and then attitude is not modest. It's a whole package, hijab notion, yes? And 2, if you look at the Quran and you look at it in this paper, that in Surah Al-Ahzab, the men were chastising women, physically abusing them. And the women were told to drape themselves so that they can be recognized as dignified entities. Similarly, after that, Surah An-Nur, when a young man started staring at a woman's neck, and he walked into a wall with a protruding bone or a piece of glass that poked his eye out. The verse came, فَلْيَضْرِبْنَ بِخُمُورِهِنَّ عَلَى جُيُوبِهِنَّ. Yes, it was all to do with attitudes of sexuality towards the other gender, and Islam institutionalized hijab as physical covering to give respect to the women, but more so, it actually brought in hijab because the man community was unable to respect a woman and to see her as a woman, as a dignified entity. That is all I need to say. I want to say that, and please do commit yourselves to reading that paper. Yes? Yeah.
Number 5, the Quran is not universal, neither such a complete book. These are the headings, of course, by
sure. These are the headings. No, these are the headings by Muhammad Walji. Muhammad Walji, he's the one who made these headings, right? Muhammad Walji of Leicester, and who's been putting up all these clips.
Right.
Yeah, but you can carry on from there. I have no problem with that.
Okay, this one starts off, the Quran was revealed 1,400 years ago. Yes, do you agree? People 1,400 years ago lived in Arabia, to whom the Quran came. Yes, the Quran does not talk about apples. The Quran talks about camels. Yes, it talks about dates. It talks about grapes. Why does Quran only use those fruits and not use any other fruit? If it was such a complete book, for example, there is possibility certain regions of the world not having dates or grapes. So Quran is not for all times or all eras. Quran talks about means of conveyance as camels. Yes, in today's day and age, we don't move by camel at all. Okay, Quran talks about the daytime, the crack of dawn, the dusk. So the people in the northern region, living at that time in the northern region, if they wanted to embrace Islam through mobile communication, Quran would not have been universal for them. Yes, so you have to understand from that the Quran has to give its endless meanings in words that were meaningful to the people who were receiving it for the first time, and those words restrict the Quran, restricting the apparentness of the Quran, but not the meaning of the Quran. And that is what our Imams have taught us all along, that there is an apparent meaning, within it is a deeper meaning, and within it is a deeper meaning, and that is why the Quran is renewing itself at every era. The hadith of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, and therefore what we do is we look at the essence of the Quran through the words of the Quran. Wherever the word is applicable, we apply it. If not, then go towards the essence of the Quran.
Okay, now this is in a much broader discussion, and that needs to be looked at. I'm sure I gave a lecture on the existential interpretation of the Quran, and this was somebody who asked a question, and maybe I was recapping, but the whole thing needs to be looked at. Basically, the assumption that the Quran is eternal, yes, and the assumption that the Quran is universally applicable to all regions, and the assumption that the Quran has everything inside it. These are the things I challenge. That when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Kitabul Mubin, it is not the Quran. Quran is a reflection of Kitabul Mubin. Yes? Allah says it is the Quran in Lawh Mahfuz. Yes? Allah similarly makes references of the Quran being in the guarded tablet. Yes? Fi Kitabin Maknoon. So whatever we have in the Quran here now is divine in human context. And human context is not eternal. Human context is temporal. So there is a divine meaning shaping itself in a human context to the extent that human beings of that time require it. So therefore, when people say everything is within the Quran, I'll say no, everything is within the Kitabul Mubin. For example, in the Quran, you don't find apples. And if everything is in the Quran, it's not there. Now, لا يمسه إلا المطهرون. No one can touch it save the most purified. Those most purified will be able to go from this Quran to the Kitabul Mubin and find it. But it's not within the Quran in an apparent capacity. That's all I was trying to say. Secondly, the Muamalat of the Quran, the law of slavery, it's a pedantic book. It has to go and address its situation that's immediately at hand. It does not mean slavery is eternal, that you have to have slavery all the time. Because Quran is eternal, its words never lose meaning, so inevitably we have to bring back the notion of slavery at some point. This is what I was trying to address, that the applicability of the Quran is not universal. With time and era, the Muamalat part of the Quran changes. There are eternal meanings fashioned within the human context. The human context is a temporal context. So therefore, Imam Sadiq said, the Quran renews itself through every generation. This is because the Quran's apparent gives the meaning of the esoteric. What I understand here is that there's an essence. The essence is eternal and universal. Its application is within the human context that we need to understand, and many a times the apparent loses its force in many different situations. So for example, فَضْرِبُوهُنَّ, beat your women, it loses its force. And the esoteric meaning of maybe bring about an understanding, go to a counselor, or that فَقْطَعُوا أَيْدِيَهُمَا, cut their hands off. That here, you don't have to cut their hands off. If it's for protection of society, then do something which is most apt for protection of society or curtailing means of corruption or reformation of society, so on and so forth. And indeed, Sayyid Imam al-Khomeini himself had, I think, suggested, and I've given this in the discussion of ijtihad and taqleed that Sayyid Fadil and Sheikh Sheikh, what's his name? Bahamanpur were there, and I spoke about this, that Imam Khomeini also said, do away with this rajam and capital punishment and decapitation of limbs. He himself had said that. So that is all that I'm trying to say there, that the basic assumptions of the Quran, that it is eternal, it is universally applicable, it's eternal in its word. Yes, these are the assumptions, that it is eternal in its exact word. It is eternal in essence, not in its formulation. It is eternal in its word. It is applicable universally. It has everything inside it. I was challenging those things, that these things are not accurate. The Quran in its essence, which is Kitabul Mubin, which has everything inside it, or that which is in Lawhul Mahfuz has everything. Otherwise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, I gave the kitab to Moses. وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا مُوسَى الْكِتَابَ. Yes? We gave Musa the kitab. Muhammad, we gave you the kitab. We gave Isa the kitab, so on and so forth. This kitab in that form is Injil, in that form is Torah, in that form is Quran. So the physical Quran is within a human context. The essence of the Quran is eternal and universal. That's all I'm saying there.
Number 6. There is the Pakistani person who then became a Christian and then became a priest, and now he's converting Muslims into Christians, and he's threatening that he will go into Bradford, which is an area with a dominance of the subcontinent community. He's threatening to go into Bradford and convert our boys and girls into Christianity. I say we should support him wholeheartedly. Let him make them into Christians and better human beings, for they will become closer to Islam than they are right now, because this convoluted Islam of theirs is leading them away from righteousness and humanity.
Now, do you agree that the context in which I speak and the audience that are in front of me, that they are intelligent people? Do you agree to that?
Yeah.
So sometimes you say something and it's understood, right? By those people. Yes? وَأَعَدُّوا لَهُمْ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُم مِّن قُوَّةٍ وَرِبَاطِ الْخَيْلِ تُرْهِبُونَ بِهِ عَدُوَّ اللَّهِ وَعَدُوَّكُمْ. These extremists take this verse out and they say, see, this is in the Quran, and they radicalize Muslims. And you would say, hold on, it came in a context. Why don't you look at the context? I'm asking you, gentlemen, surely this must have been said in a context. It has been said in the LA talks. Listen to the whole context. Yes? Now here is this. At that point, what had happened was that an Afghani had converted into Christian. And all of the Muslims were ready to kill that Afghani because he became an apostate. I don't believe in this apostasy anyway. There is nothing about apostasy in the Quran. And if there is anything about reference within the hadith, then it is only because that they were divulging state secret, or they were trying to weaken the Muslim community. You know, in Surah Baqarah, we have this. In the morning they became Muslims, in the evenings they became Kafirs, Jews again. Remember? To weaken the freshly formed Muslim community. So as a deterrent for them, that there's a death penalty. There is no such thing as apostasy because it's in conflict with Quran, like Rahafiddin. So people should be free to find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, Allah is saying He's giving paradise. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَالَّذِينَ هَادُوا وَالنَّصَارَى وَالصَّابِئِينَ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَبِالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. Yes? وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا فَلَهُمْ أَجْرُهُمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ وَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ بَلَى مَنْ أَسْلَمَ وَجْهَهُ لِلَّهِ فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. Yes? In time and time again, you find in the Quran, yes, that Allah is saying whoever believes in Allah, yes, and is surrendered to Allah. And I'm sorry I'm using the word yes, yes, yes again, because I'm not giving a majlis, I'm talking with, obviously, so sorry if it's sounding like a majlis and I'm getting a bit excited. But forgive my language, that's what I'm asking. And bear with me. Yes, sorry about this. So here it is, that in my humble opinion, what I'm trying to say to these Muslims is that those people who read namaz, who fasted, who killed Imam Hussein, they are not Muslims as far as I'm concerned. But a person who is running away from that form of Islam that is draconian, merciless, and for the sake of Allah comes towards Christianity, then that person has arrived to a greater level of Islam. Of course, he is wrong in thinking Isa, Masih, is the son of God. But in a fundamental sense, Islam was also wrong, the one that he was practicing. Yes? And if that person does not understand that Masih cannot be the son of God and they are naive, then Allah is giving them paradise in the Quran. So here I'm trying to convey to my audience that look, Islam is all about becoming God-centric and a better moral human being. That's all I'm trying to say to them. As opposed to a label Islam, that I'm a Muslim, I've done my 5 prayers, now I can put the son of the Prophet to that, it doesn't matter. This is not Islam. I am fasting, the rest of the world can go to hell, or should go to hell because they're not fasting. Such attitudes are ungodly. The prophetic attitude was, I'm fasting, O Lord, let me fast more so the rest of them who don't fast can also go to paradise. That's the attitude Islam creates. The softness of the heart and godliness. This is what I was trying to convey to the audience that were there. Yes, because when the people called me, they said, look, he's making everybody Christians. I said, are they becoming better Muslims? Are they becoming better humans? He said, yes. I said, in that case, they're becoming better Muslims. So that was what I was trying to emphasize. That our Islam right now, that is in the form of Wahhabism, that allows us, yes, to see white girls as just cheap meat. And we can sell drugs to them and push anything we want and steal from them. That is not Islam. And if Christianity is giving them spirituality, God-centricity and human values, then that is closer to Islam. That is only thing that I was trying to emphasize to my audience.
Number 7. Truth is not the property of any one sect. I have personally never believed that the Shias are on the truth. The truth is a subjective thing that everybody arrives at in their own capacity, whether as an individual or as community, as humanity at large. The truth is available for Sunni, Shia, Hindu as one body, for Sunni as Sunni, Shia as Shia, me as me, you as you. But there are certain traits, certain properties. If you look at the Quran is very clear. There is only one distinction the Quran makes: friend of God, enemy of God, and that's it. It doesn't care for the Muslim, the Jew, Christian, or the Sabian. It just says friend of God, enemy of God. Wherever the verses of salvation are recited, it doesn't mention the Prophet of Islam. It doesn't mention Prophet Musa. It doesn't mention Prophet Isa. It mentions Allah, the hereafter, righteous deeds. That's it.
So this one has got 2 or 3 things inside it. The truth means the absolute exclusive belonging that is to a person. So here the assumption of the Shia is that only they are on the truth and the rest of the Muslims are not on the truth. The assumption that the Sunni makes is that only they are on the truth. The rest of the Muslims are not on the truth. The Muslim makes an assumption that they are on the truth. The rest of the religions are not on the truth. The Christians, similarly, the Jews, the Hindus, they all make this claim, the truth with a capital T. I'm saying no, that's not the case. Truth is relativistic and individualistic. My relation to my God is very individualistic. It's not shared by anybody else. Yes? The Prophet said Salman and Abu Dhar, both of them are going to paradise. Yet Salman is on the 10th level of Iman and Abu Dhar is on the 9th level of Iman. If Abu Dhar were to know what is in the heart of Salman, la kaffarahu. Abu Dhar will say Salman is a kafir. It is because truth is relativistic in that way. Our relation to God, we all have the same mother. But our relationship with our mother is unique. Everybody has a unique relationship with their mother. Similarly, we have a very unique relationship with God. Christian can be on the truth in terms of his relationship with God, so can a Muslim. This does not mean that a Muslim can change his religion and become Christian. As soon as you verify that Isa is not the son of God and Muhammad Rasulullah is the final prophet, as soon as you rationally verify this, you cannot undo what you already know. You cannot unknow it. It's rationally inconsistent. It's incoherent logically. So it does not mean you can jump from one religion to other. I'm only talking about the subjectivity of truth in terms of relationship that each one of us has with God and how we understand. So here I say, and I've explained this at great length, that Sorry, what was I saying? Yeah, about plurality of religion. I was on a point and I've forgotten what I was going to say. But in any case, let me just go through with it again. The truth is subjective in terms of our relationship with God, provided we are sincere. And sincerity means to find the truth wherever it is available from, not having our arrogance and ego within it, but to find the truth for what it is worth. Now somebody said, what about the ISIS? They are on the truth, they're sincere. I said, no, sincerity is all about existence. It's all existential and productive. Giving life is productive. Taking life away is inconsistent with existential property. So sincerity has to be in line with the existential property of growth. So speaking the truth, saving lives, being altruistic, so on and so forth. These are the traits of a sincere person who's always expanding. So this is a qualification of sincerity. Now if you look at the Quran, it says, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَالَّذِينَ هَادُوا وَالنَّصَارَى وَالصَّابِئِينَ. Here the prophets are taken into consideration. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا are the people who are following the teachings of Muhammad Rasulullah. وَالَّذِينَ هَادُوا, the teachings of Moses. وَالنَّصَارَى, the teachings of Jesus. وَالصَّابِئِينَ, whoever their prophet was. But when it comes to salvation, Allah says, Amanu, Hadu, Nasara, Sabin means very little. What is important is, Man amana minhum billah wa bil yawmil akhir. Whoever amongst these four groups believes in Allah and in the last day and commits righteous deeds, they have salvation. So in the story of salvation, the belief in any prophet, the Quran does not see as essential, save as a byproduct, because they have given you the meaning of Amalun Saleh in your particular context of Salah and Siyam. But Amalun Saleh beyond that, as Surah Al-An'am and others say, is don't lie, don't cheat, don't kill, don't be indecent. Those are the beautiful human values that are fundamentally spoken about across humanity. And then after that, the particular Amalun Saleh of Namaz and Roza. What I'm saying, even Namaz and Roza are not Amalun Saleh. It's what we become through Namaz and fasting, that's Amalun Saleh. Yes? It's our interaction with it, not the action of 4 rakat, but the interaction with it. So, the centrality of the prophets is not there within the Quran. There is centrality of God and human. And if you can listen to the Birmingham lectures delivered some 7 years ago, and they're transcribed already, I've been talking about that, the horizontal and the vertical axis. That what is of the fundamental importance is the vertical one, human and God centricity. That is important, yes? The horizontal one are only there to assist the verticality, that human being grows into godliness and becomes godlike. So that is the important part. At the same time, I've said that there are certain traits. God makes arguments within the Quran that are rationally based, and those are things that we will all accept. However, the relationship with God is still very subjective. It's very, very subjective and individualistic. That's all I'm trying to say at that point.
Number 8. Our leadership has failed us because primarily leadership means somebody who understands revelation and how to interpret it. Yeah. This is what has failed us. Leadership is born through the goodness of humanity. All of us have something to contribute. But this thing of us looking to Najaf and looking to Qum, these grand people have served a grand purpose. But we have to come to a stage now where we find our growth is stifled. We are being suffocated. We are not allowed to move on, and only because the fullness of what we can contribute is not being allowed to be contributed.
So first and foremost, I acknowledge what the ulama have done. Yes? But now, through the growth of human competency, people themselves need to be empowered to be able to take their decisions. So for example, I'll give you a few examples. In terms of commerce and khums, 50% of it is given to 10 million people or 15 million people, and 50% is given to 190 million people, and even then, the Maharaj's office does not give any accountability. This is not good leadership. People should be empowered. Look, invest this khums or whatever you want to do, feed the poor and get rid of global Shia, at least poverty. Oh, by the way, when I said I don't believe Shia is on the truth, that I mean on the capital T truth, yes? That they are the only ones who will have salvation. Others have salvation as well. I don't believe Sunnis are on the truth. That's what I meant by that statement. That's what I'd forgotten to say. So here now, what I'm saying is, that for everything we find that we are stifled. In terms of Eid, instead of doing one Eid, every person who's following their own taqlid going to do their own Eid, and the whole day of Eid is messed up, the human community is divided into several parts. I am saying, as opposed to Shias being divided, Shias and Sunnis should be doing one Eid. This is the level of leadership we need. Leadership that allows us to get involved within the political processes of these countries. Not to say, أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمْ وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الظَّالِمُونَ. As Imam Khomeini and Sayyid al-Khui's fatwa say, that even if you are being cheated, you cannot go to a non-Muslim law court to extract your right. And Imam Khomeini goes even further and says, even if you get your right, it's not yours, because of this paradigm in which they operated, in which we had Darul Islam and Darul Harb, or so on and so forth, or the Jair leadership, yes, Sultanul Jair. What I'm saying here is that no, those paradigms have shifted. Things have changed. We are growing. The whole purpose of leadership is to empower the people to grow, to be able to take their decision, not to be stifled. So for every little thing you need a fatwa. Shall I ban this person? We need a fatwa. This person is saying that you can't have pedophilia being preached from the mimbar, ban him, because it's going against the fatwa of an agha. Is this reasonable to you people? That Ayatullah's fatwas say that you can marry a 2-year-old girl and you can fondle her. Is this not pedophilia in the modern context? And you can consummate the marriage at the age of 8. This is nothing but stifling, that the pulpits cannot talk, yes, against the status quo, because the status quo has somehow become sacred. Seriously, is this what Allah is teaching us? This is what I'm trying to say here. That there comes a time, they have played a grand role, but failing to empower the people to think, and to say that no, we are moving on. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu awfu bil uqud. We are in this country, awfu bil uqud. Don't marry 5, 6, 10-year-old girls, 14-year-old girls. You know that situation that arose in Peterborough, right? When our very dear friend said off the record that he will marry off that 14-year-old girl. Or you know the thing that happened at the pulpit of Haydari, in which that gentleman, good friend, he said, the black is frowned upon. It's a very racist comment. And a woman has to make herself available to a man whenever he wants to have sex. This is constituting marital rape in this country. Yes? So on and so forth. When we look for a fatwa for every little thing, this is when we are stifled. When we are allowed not to evolve and to understand our own context. In fact, فَلَوْلَا نَفَرَ مِنْ كُلِّ فِرْقَةٍ طَائِفَةٌ مِنْهُمْ يَتَفَقَّهُوا فِي الدِّينِ. This is what should be done in accordance with the Quran. Allow them all to go and understand Islam in their own context and move on, for everybody has something to offer uniquely. Now, in business and commerce, the Khojas have far more to offer, yes, than the mujtahids who understand commerce, because they do not have fundamental understanding of commerce. In the case of medical science, the mujtahid will not understand the full depth of euthanasia, active euthanasia, passive euthanasia. These experts would. So that is what I'm trying to point out here. That with all due reverence, all due respect to our fathers and elders and leaders and scholars, things have to move on. You cannot be beholden to a place on the world that don't understand these circumstances accurately. And indeed, my model of ijtihad that I've spoken about on several occasions is the integration of the collective intellect. I've spoken on it at great length in some of my lectures and in other places as well. So if afterwards, when we discuss it in detail, I will share my, obviously, tuppence worth. I'll give my tuppence worth and share my views. Yes?
Number 9, Allah punish him and chastise him. So this is about Abu Bakr.
Yes.
Allah punish him and chastise him. Sorry?
Yes, I'm listening.
But why can't you acknowledge all the good that he did as well? Why is there this personal hatred? If you want to really personally hate Shaitan. But nobody hates Shaitan. He's the greatest enemy of God, but no one is ready to hate him. Something has gone wrong with us. The first Khalifa, he made a huge blunder in Fadak. He made a huge blunder in Saqif. Whenever everyone was saying Ali is the chosen one of the Prophet of God and he's the favored one of God, yet he still took it, yes? He made a huge blunder. But what about all the good the man did as well? What about all the wealth he gave in the way of Allah? What about his personal relationship he had with the Holy Prophet? What about all the good signs of this man? Why are we so blinkered? Why can't we see it? Surely, if I was a true person to myself, I would have a perspective of history that was accurate.
So I was dealing with the Shia attitudes, sectarian sort of attitudes, and swearing and cursing at Abu Bakr and Umar. And I say to them that, look, you haven't had exposure to accurate history and history as it unfolded. The Maulanas who are going onto the pulpit are just giving a narrative that has developed over a few hundred years or many centuries that has suited them. If you look at the letter of Imam Hussein to the people of Basra, he says, we are grieved that they took away our right from us. It's in Tabari, is it? The letter is in Tabari. I will send you a copy. He said, but they tried to do good and they tried to put many things right. And for that, we pray for them and we pray for their forgiveness and our forgiveness. So if Imam Hussein can acknowledge the good that Abu Bakr did, who are we to say otherwise? Now here is Shaitan, the biggest enemy of God, the one that everybody should hate because Allah does lana on him. And I know we are coming to Shaitan in a little while. But Allah does lana on him, but nobody personally hates Shaitan. So I'm trying to address the attitude of the people, that people think about these things carefully. Imam Hussein said to Imam Zainul Abidin on his final farewell that Allah has overpowered their hearts. Sorry, Shaitan has overpowered the hearts of the enemies. So Imam Hussein also says Shaitan is the one that is driving them to this action. So why aren't we opposed to Shaitan? Why aren't we hating Shaitan? It was a whole point I was making, and please listen to the whole of the lecture. And in fact, the book Islam and Concentricity, in one place it talks about this, that Shaitan is something that is inside us accurately. Yes, most accurately. Now, when Shaitan says, فَأَنذَرْنِي إِلَّا يَوْمَ يُبْعَثُونَ, O Allah, then spare me till the day that you raise them. Allah, in return for all the good work that Shaitan has done, gave him this plea of his. He accepted it. So even Allah accepts and acknowledges the good that Shaitan did previously, and he recompenses him for the good that he did previously. So I'm saying, look at this attitude of ours. Abu Bakr is this, Abu Bakr is that, Umar is this, Umar is that. Well, what about the good that he has done? If Imam Hussein can acknowledge it, who are me and you not to acknowledge it? Yes? And by this, my whole argument was that no, we need to re-evaluate history. By no means is Abu Bakr absolved of the wrong that he has done. And the wrong is so grave, what is done in Fadak, that it tarnishes every good that he has done. But I'm talking about our attitudes. Are they like the attitudes of the Imams? The Imams' attitudes were very different. They said what they said, like Imam Hussein's letter. So inshallah we can send you a copy of that letter as well, yes?
Number 10. So that's why when I challenge the Shia Fuqaha, the Faqih and the Marajas, I always tell them 3 Eids. Is this what Imam Sadiq has taught? Hadith after hadith after hadith, in which he is saying, doing one Eid with the people of Qibla, Sunnis and Shias should have one Eid. Imam Sadiq insisting. So he says, this is the hadith of the Prophet, in brackets, pointing and indicate to a different hadith, close bracket. I said, look, who came after, the Prophet or Imam Sadiq? This is the hadith of the Prophet, and this is of Imam Sadiq reinterpreting it. And he's an authority for us. So we're not following the fiqh of Imam Sadiq at all, according to my own research.
Okay, here, I always say to the Maharaj Ayatollah Sistani, I've said this to him on many occasions, yes, that why can't we have one day of Eid? Eid is a social event. It shows the political might of the Muslims. Why can't we have one Eid? So everybody says our methodologies are different and so on and so forth. So they said, Sum li ru'ya waftur li ru'ya. Yes? It's the prophetic statement. Yes? وَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمْ فَلْيَصُمْ. And according to the verses of the Quran, Shahida means the one who is in their town, according to Hadith of Imam Sadiq, or Shahida means one who observes it. So I say here that Imam Sadiq, on many occasions, I say the Khui contends, right? On many occasions, do Eid with Ahlul Salah, with Ahlul Qibla, with Ahlul La ilaha illallah. He used to insist, do one Eid. So they would bring the response that, but Prophet has said, Sum li ru'ya, waftur li ru'ya. By the way, my article on Hilal is also here. I will send that to you, in which my full reasoning is in there as well, the jurisprudential reasoning. So then they say, I said, look, in an evolutionary trend, Imam Sadiq came in a Muslim empire. The Prophet came when Islam was parochial to Medina. So when the Prophet says Sum li ru'ya, waftul li ru'ya, it means in Medina. But when Imam Sadiq says Sum li ru'ya, waftul li ru'ya, it means within the Muslim world. Yes, wherever there is ru'ya, just do it. So for that, the evidence is that one day somebody came to Imam Sadiq, and I'm just quoting this, I don't know which fast he said it was. He said, which fast is it? And the Imam said, it's the fourth fast. And they said, no, it's the fifth fast. We saw the moon. Imam said, in that case, I will do one qada. He never said, your ufuk was different to my ufuk. Yes? He never said that there was ru'ya in your ufuk, there was no ru'ya in my ufuk. He simply says, sum li ru'ya means in any afaq of the Muslimin. This is what I'm trying to say to them, that Eid should be one day. Finish. If Imam Sadiq says it, then Imam Sadiq is interpreting man shahida minkum. Yes? فَلْيَصُمْ in a more global context. So Imam Sadiq should be resorted to. You cannot bring the hadith of the Prophet to nullify Imam Sadiq's hadith.
Number 11. Ashura used to be one day, then it became 3 days, then it became 10 days, and now it goes all the way up to Eid al-Zahra. This is not right. This is really, really wrong. The Imams never used to be like this. If you look at the Lebanese, after Ashura Majlis, they read Muqtarname, Shabe Ghariba, and it's finished. And then they don't congregate until the Arba'een of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Even the Arba'een, we can't prove that it's authentic. Can you see that? What you see here now is religion. I'm saying this, please, after the initial offense that you will feel, curse me, swear at me, whatever you want to do. Don't listen any further. But go home and think about this. 80% of Shia Islam is not Islam. Mafatul Jinan, 70% of it, I can empty it for you. History that we are following, please prove it. 8% of the Shia Islam is nothing to do with Prophet, Imam Ali or Imam Sadiq. Yes? 80% of Sunni Islam is nothing to do with the Prophet and with Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. Nothing. These are all reactions, and we have provided to each other historically. Yes, in opposition to one another. This is what we have made. This is what it's become.
So I would like to respond this as we are going through those emails, so inshallah, but I'm giving you a brief answer. The Imams went on their normal business after Ashura, yes? Now somebody asked me in the audience, why can't we marry or buy properties or this or that for 2.5 months till Eid al-Zahra? And I said, no, this is not something that the Imams have practiced. So one of the ladies, she said, but Imam Zainul Abidin cried for 40 years. I said, but Imam Baqir didn't. Imam Sadiq didn't. They went on with life as normal after Ashura. So there is no need for this. We've just added on to things like crazily. Today, Imam Hussein has become commercialized. The Noha Khan and the Marsiya Khan and the Maulanas, and they're just minting money out of it. And the other thing that I have a grievance is, for 40, 50 years we go to the foot of the pulpit, we don't become any wiser, we don't become more enlightened, we don't become a better human being, we become more sectarian, we swear at Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and we then get killed. Yes? This is what the pulpit is doing. It's not enlightening people, it's actually keeping people in a very narrow-minded framework. It's perpetuating its own self. And so many different nohas and marsiyas and so many different sentiments that are altogether alien to what the Imams were teaching. So that's the first part. 2, we can't prove the authenticity of Arba'in. I believe we spoke about that last time, yes? That there is a question mark as to whether Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari got to Karbala on the day of Arba'in. There is a question mark as to whether Imam Zainul Abidin Bibi Zainab got to Karbala on Arba'in, yes? So we can't prove its authenticity. I'm not saying it's inauthentic. I'm saying we can't prove its authenticity. Yes, somebody needs to go and prove it if it is authentic. Now, 80% of Shia Islam, whatever constitutes Shia identity, bring it to me. I believe majority of it is something that we can argue against. So for example, the whole thing of history, that these are the narratives of history. Even if you look at the story of Hazrat Ali Asghar, from the first narrations to the one that come after 8 centuries, you will see so much has been added to it. So much gets added to it. One after another century, we add more and more to it. So in history, when we look at Saqifa, when we look at the history of X, Y, and Z events, in the time of Imamah and Khilafah, we'll find that so many of it cannot be authenticated. We don't know exactly what happened. We have constructed our own version of it. So for example, you have these hadith, for example, yes? That the Hassanis and the Hussainis, when they were struggling, so then they bring out the hadith that the Prophet says to Bibi Fatima that when you give birth to a child, to your first child, don't give him milk. So he comes back after 3 days from an expedition and he's asked Bibi Fatima, did you feed him? She said yes. He said fine. The next one, when he comes, don't feed him. So Imam Hussein takes birth, Salamullah alayh, and the Prophet is away. And then the Prophet comes back and he says, after 3 days, Fatima, have you fed him? She says no. So then he puts his tongue in Imam Hussein's mouth and he says, now the imamat would be in Imam Hussein's household. Now you know for a fact that these things are made up. And there was a great strife between the Hassanis and the Hussaini Sadat at that point as to where the imamat lies after Imam Hussein. Yeah? Is it Muhammad ibn Hanafiya? Is it the Hassani Sayyid? Is it the Hussaini Sayyid? So on and so forth. So a lot of this history is very dubious. We need to try and understand what is authentic, what is not authentic. Again, the theology, the absolute knowledge of the Imam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the Prophet does not have absolute knowledge in the Quran, yet the Prophet has ilmul ghaib. So we need to qualify these things. But the way the Shias understand it, in Shia as a form of Shia identity, does not make much sense. I'm just going to give you brief sort of things. Or God centricity. In Shia Islam, it's Imam centricity. Even the Prophet is God. Or the collection of hadiths. You will find that some people will say that, like I've heard that nowadays they've done research on Bihar and they're saying that the whole of the 110 volumes can be narrowed down to 6 or 10 volumes. Yes? And other people have done research that Asah al-Kafi from the 15,000 hadiths are 6,000. So for example, even the hadith literature that are marking Shia identity are something that is of a huge question. Then you look at the Shia and Sunni. They have grown in opposition to each other. They pray together, we pray separately. They pray Maghrib at this time, we pray separately. This is totally inconsistent with the hadiths of the Imams. And as Sayyid al-Khuy contends as well. Then all of our ceremonies, ceremony after ceremony after ceremony, which marks the Shia identity. Where does it all come from? This sufra, that sufra, that sufra, that sufra. Then we have the holy places, this Imam Zada, that Imam Zada, Jamkaran, so on and so forth. Where does it all come from? The issues of fiqh, yes, so on and so forth. We will find now, obviously I want to engage in this question very, very fully with my learned friends, which is you too, and go through it one by one by one, yes? All in Mafatul Jinan, the ziyarat that we have, the du'as that we have, the amal that we have, the salawat that we have. I believe majority of this is suspicious. Either through the chain of narration, either through its inconsistency with the Quranic theology, or either through its style which is totally alien to the style in which the Imam spoke, in that level of eloquency with which the Imam spoke. Yes? So that's my brief answer to that. And we've emailed you regarding this, that let us start this off, if you remember, yes? We've already sent you an email on alcohol issue and this. You contended that the 15 hadiths of alcohol are not there, and Sayyid Khuy is saying there are far more than 15 hadiths that alcohol is tahir, yes? We sent that email to you and we sent you the caption of Sayyid al-Khuy, and when we come there I can give you my full reasoning. Do you remember that email? That was the last one we sent you.
Yes.
About this particular issue number 11 and the alcohol issue, we clarified both of those. The alcohol ijtihad I have not given to you yet, but I told you, I just wanted to clarify because Sheikh Al-Dina said I might have exaggerated on the day, that there are no 15 Sahih hadith. In fact, according to Sayyid al-Khuy, there are far more than 15 Sahih hadith and Mu'tabar hadith. Yes? Please read it. Sayyid al-Khuy is saying it. Remember Sheikh Al-Dina, I told you, that I read it in Sayyid al-Khuy's work somewhere, because I myself have read about 10, 11, 12 hadiths that the alcohol is tahir. Sayyid al-Khuy says far more. Yes? Mu'tabar hadith. And please check the email, it's there.
Yes. Number 12, the Quran has opened itself to a variety of interpretation, hasn't it? The ambiguity of the Quran has opened itself up to a variety of interpretations. The person who is it this way, open bracket, indicating doing the wudu of the Sunni method, close bracket, is justified, and a person washing it this way, open bracket again, indicating close bracket, can also justify it. Of course, the hadith of the Imam clarifies it, but I will explain that afterwards as the left weight, the context, and the Quran is the great weight. That's going to be one of the tools that we use as tools to deal with these problems that we're having. But the Quran has realized that human processes of interpretation will vary from one to another. And it's left the leverage there to allow for plurality of interpretations. Amazing, isn't it? So that person who watches this way, in bracket Sunni way, is right, and the person who watches this way, in bracket Shi'i way, is also right in their own ways. The Quran says, Aqimus Salah. It doesn't say fold your arms or open your arms. Yes, there is a hadith in the Sahih Sitta that the Prophet left his arms open and prayed. But that's fine. The Quran doesn't say anything. And we are going to deal with that later on, with the heavier weight and the lesser weight. But what does it mean that those who pray, this was, in brackets, Sunni method of holding arms, brackets, this way, in brackets, Shi'i method, are both okay.
Okay, now in those LA lectures, I was talking about, one second, sorry Sheikh.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just making a note. I should have looked at these things before. Okay, the Prophet in Ghadir, he said, I leave with you two weights, in which one is heavier than the other. The Quran is the heavier, my Ahlul Bayt, which are the lighter. And I clarified there that this is not talking about the spiritual rank of the Ahlul Bayt, which is indeed heavier than the Quran. It's talking about the interpretive role of the Ahlul Bayt, that the Quran is ambiguous, it is more essence based, and the Ahlul Bayt is more contextually based, because every context demands an immediate, precise answer. The Quran cannot deal with that. The Quran is set in a few words, so it's more ambiguous. It just says, فَغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ. Yes? Now, the hadith that Imam Sadiq says that the fact is that somebody went to Imam Sadiq after 150 years and says, explain to us what is the wudu of the Prophet. So what were they doing for 150 years? Yes? What were they doing? In any case, the Imam puts his hand inside the water, takes it, فَاسْتَدَلَّ, and then he poured it on his right arm and he washed it down. And the Rawi says, and he did not go backwards. The Imam did not say, I'm not going backwards, or you don't go backwards. The Rawi says, right? The Rawi said he poured the water and let it roll, and it went all the way down to the asabi'ah. And he did not go backwards. The Rawi is saying this because the questioner had this notion that the Sunnis do it this way, so maybe that makes it batil. Now what I say here is that the Imam was explaining the best practice, not the only practice. Yes? It's explaining the best practice, not the only practice. That's about it. Washing of the arms can be done this way or that way. Both are perfectly fine in my ijtihadi model. The Quran is the heavier weight, the Ahlul Bayt are the lesser weight. We are more contextual. They show us the best extension in any given context, and we learn the essences from that in my own model that I will, if you care, if you want, then we can talk about it at a later date. Now, the Imam was asked, how do I know if my salah is accepted? In a salah tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar, it's a spiritual act. The folding of your arm does not determine the acceptance of the salat or the rejection of the salat. It is what you become through the salat that determines the acceptance or the rejection of salah by God. As-salah amududdin, yes? In qubilat ma siwaha, in ruddat ma siwaha. So I'm saying, if it is so important to fold the arms and to leave the arms open, and if salah is amududdin, and if it's accepted, everything else is accepted, then God should have said, in place of aqimus salah, He should have said in one place, yes, aqimus salah, yes, with your hands open. That's it, 2 more words and would have been enough. Why did Allah say it in the Quran? If it was that important, folding of the arms and leaving of the arms open. So this is what I was trying to say, that leaving arms open, folding arms was nothing to do with the essence of salah. The essence of salah is something else totally, within the sentiments of the adhkar and the postures, if that was the case. Now, as far as the hadiths of the Imam are concerned, in which they're saying that takfir, closing of the arms, kufr, takfir, kafara, covering one with the other one, invalidates your prayer, it was only to inform his followers to conduct the best practice, nothing else. Or or Imam Sadiq's Sahih hadith, that if somebody plays a meaningful part of a surah, then that suffices in place of the second surah. You don't have to pray a full surah. It's a Sahih hadith in Wasail al-Shia, but I don't remember where. Yes, at least it's mu'tabar. Yes? So this is my own understanding, in my own ijtihadi model, that Quran is the heavyweight, Ahlul Bayt are the lesser weights in terms of the fiqh and ahkam. And if you can listen to those series of lectures, it's dealing with the ahkam of the Sharia, nothing else. Not the theology, not the morality, but the ahkam. And that ahkam have to be in line with the theology of the Quran, which is bringing about God centricity and godliness, and morality, which is bringing about the fullness of humanity. These are means towards that end. Folding of the arm or washing arm upward or downward does not determine acceptance or rejection. What is determining acceptance and rejection is obedience to God and a wholesome surrender to God through that act. So this is my firm belief, and I explain this in my own model of ijtihad. So if anybody wants to quiz me for that afterwards, then we can go in depth with that, yes? And I believe that the hadiths of the Imam are contextual in that way, whenever they are saying this, because the Imam's hadiths always conflict. They say if you pray behind this Imam, it's not allowed. And then again they say if you pray behind him, the Sunni, it's like you're praying behind the Prophet in the front line. So the Imam were only trying to make a distinction between the Nasibi, who is an enemy of God, yes, and others. At times, oh, by the way, that other question had friend of God and enemy of God. Can I just go back to that one and just complete one more thing? In the Australian lectures this year, I explained that Quran talks about Ahlul Kitab. لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ مَسِيحٌ. People who have said that Allah is Masih have done kufr. Nonetheless, he calls them Ahlul Kitab, he does not call them Kafir. Quran makes a distinction between kufr and kafir. Can you see that? It makes a difference between Muslim and Islam. It frowns upon Muslims sometimes, and it commends Islam, right? Or it commends Muslim of Ibrahim and Yaqub. Am kuntum shuhada idh hadara Yaqub al-maut. For example, in Surah Baqarah, إِذْ قَالَ لِبَنِيهِ, when he said to his children, what will you do after I've gone? And that's how we will be Muslims, for example. Yes? So, Quran makes these distinctions. But Quran has the word kufr. And he calls shaitan, وَكَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ وَاسْتَكْبَرَ وَكَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ. Yes? فَسَجَدَ الْمَلَائِكَةِ كُلُّهُمْ إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ أَبَى وَاسْتَكْبَرَ وَكَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ. Now, Iblis believes in Allah. He acknowledges Allah and His power and the day of Qiyamah. أَنذِرْنِي إِلَى يَوْمِ يُبْعَثُونَ. He believes in Qiyamah, yes? He believes in the power of Allah. إِلَّا عِبَادُكَ مِنْهُمُ الْمُخْلَصُونَ. He also knows there will be prophets. He believes in all these things. Allah still calls him a kafir. And Allah says the munafiq are in darakul asfal min al-nar. They are in the lowest pit of hell. So this nifaq and this kufr is applied to human beings, whether they are Muslims, Christians or Jews. And indeed, the Quranic munafiq can only be a Muslim, according to our sort of technical terminology. The Quranic munafiq can only be a Muslim, yes? Who displays Islam and hides something else inside. That's a munafiq, right? So the Quranic munafiq is only a Muslim, can only be a Muslim. So Allah says this munafiq is in the least of the pits of hell. And similarly, Iblis is kafir. لَقَدْ حَقَّ الْقَوْلُ عَلَىٰ أَكْثَرِهِمْ فَهُمْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Most of them will not believe. So Allah does not disdain from calling the Muslim a kafir and a munafiq. So that's why I'm saying that Allah makes distinction of friend of God and enemy of God, as opposed to making distinctions on the notion of Islam and Nasara and Alladina Hadu and Sabi'id. It cares to make distinctions on the inner sort of state of being of kufr and the inner nifaq. So that is just the leftover from that particular question. Sorry about that, I just went back there. Yes?
Thank you. Number 13. Adam was told by Iblis, and Iblis spoke the truth. He said, Allah has not prevented you from this tree, but that you should do qiyam. And the transcriber has put unclear. Ever living angels, and that's exactly what Adam wanted. And it was true that Iblis said to Adam that God blessed Iblis for that.
Okay.
Then the transcriber has added this sentence. The last sentence is replayed a few times in the video. It's not very clear, but it does seem like he is saying the word blessed but with a smile.
Okay, so this is in a Q&A at Mahfil Ali, yes? After I gave a talk on the existential interpretation of the Quran, or the existential sort of model of interpretation of the Quran. Now let's just explain this. The people say everything that has gone wrong with us is because of Iblis. And what I'm trying to address their minds is that it's not Iblis, it's me and you. The greatest shaitan for a person is his own soul. Yes? The Prophet said, I have enslaved my own shaitan. So I'm trying to impress upon their minds, and I'm being sarcastic here with a smile, that God bless Iblis. To try and wake people up that, look, it's not Iblis that is outside, it's Iblis that's inside me and you. Now, if we look at the Quran, Iblis said, Allah has not prevented you from that tree, save that you become Malakain or Khalidin. And this is what Adam wanted. He wants to become angelic. He wants to become ever living. And that's the absolute truth. And that's the absolute truth. When Adam ate that fruit, he had the opportunity to become angelic, and he had the opportunity to become Khalid. Yes, ever living. Without eating that fruit, Adam would not have had the opportunity to do that. Now, Iblis, at one point in the Quran says, Inna Allah wa'adakum, Allah promised you, wa wa'adtukum fa akhlaftu. He promised you, I have promised you, but I have defaulted on my promise. So when I read the Quran, I see, no, by and large, whatever Iblis has been talking, he's been showing a level of integrity within the Quran. He has been showing a level of integrity. He's not good, he's evil. He's condemned to the pit of hell. I said, God bless Iblis was just as a very sarcastic comment to arouse the audience into thinking. And that was about it. But God has cursed him. He is going to the pit of hell. He is going to be there forever. But so is the real Iblis, that is the human being. Yes? Iblis says, I just called you. You came running to me. I am not I'm not going to shout at you, don't shout at me. We are all going to go in there. In fact, he's showing a level of dignity as well, that we're all going to burn together. But I'm not shouting at you, don't shout at me. He is wrong, he accepts he is wrong. He says that God's lana is on him, and he's chosen that. But he's saying, don't blame me. You have chosen this for yourself. I chose this for myself, and I have accepted this damnation. You chose it for yourself, don't blame me, don't do sarikh on me. I'm not doing sarikh on you. This is what I was trying to explain to the audience, yes? That we can't blame Iblis. He spoke the truth at that point. He entices us, but we get enticed. So Iblis is mal'oon, but we are the biggest lana. That's what I was trying to say. And that was actually a sarcastic comment, and you cannot say to a person that you do not have right to be sarcastic and be humorous and talk in the way that you normally talk. The context determines what you're saying, and the people who are there understand what you're saying immediately to them. They have not become the worshippers of Iblis or Shaitan worshippers, yes? So that's what I was saying, and please listen to the whole of that thing.
Number 14, you are right, absolutely. It doesn't make sense, this doing taqleed to one person and the most learned. First and foremost, there is no notion of establishing who is the most learned, who the most learned is, either in methodology or each given fatwa. Both of them are impossible as each other. 2, you can have a girl of 7 years old who can be the most learned in one mas'ala, and everybody would have to, by rational principle, have to follow her. Similarly, the people in commerce, the people in medicine, they are the most learned in their own area. So you don't follow a marja, you follow them instead. 2, the whole notion that the mujtahid bears responsibility for the mukallaf, yes, it is something that is there. We find it in Imam Sadiq's hadith, but only when the mukallaf does feel that the mujtahid is making a mistake. If mukallaf feels that the mujtahid is wrong here, then in that case the mukallaf is not absolved by following any mujtahid, because they are responsible to God directly themselves. Yes, it overpowers. 3, taqleed, Ayatul Sistani himself says, contrary to Makarim Shirazi, Ayatul Makarim Shirazi is an individual prerogative and choice. then it's a bit unclear, the transcription that transcriber says. Then he continues, taqleed in itself is nothing to do with taqleed. Yes, the choice of choosing one over other has nothing to do with taqleed at all. So, when we can't establish a'lamiyya because the whole thing is nonsensical. 2, in this world now, there is no notion of a'lamiyya. The world is so sophisticated, it needs collective minds coming together. 3, if a person feels that the fatwa is totally not making sense, and they are not absolved in following that fatwa. 4, when they can't understand who the a'lam is, they are at full liberty according to Ayatul to choose anyone to follow. Of course, I don't subscribe to that system myself because it will just make mayhem, but I would postulate that we have this, another collective sort of integration of intellect and bring about something of ijtihad at that level in marja'iyah.
Okay, first I just want to go back to that shaitan business. The Prophet had said, if the son of Adam were to stop sinning, Allah will destroy him and create another creation that starts sinning so that Allah may forgive. This does not give license for the son of Adam to sin. It is said in a particular context. So that's what I'm trying to say, that I said that in a particular context. Now, coming to this one. Yes, I do not believe that you can establish marja'iyya in any way, alamiyya in any way whatsoever. Yes? We cannot say each masala, this person is more alam, because each masala has to be weighed up. So the other thing we can say is methodology. So methodology will not ensure that each masala comes out most accurate, first and foremost. And we have a fallibilistic system, a mukhatti'ah system. So here is what we say, that a'lamiyya, if it is determined by a few people, then those few people should be the most a'lam, because they weighed up a few people and they say, oh, this one is more learned than that one. That means that you are more learned in order to make that distinction, that this one is more learned than that one. You're saying that you are most learned. You're actually implying that because I'm saying this one is more learned than that one, I am the most learned to determine this, to assess it. So it's an impossible, logically impossible situation. No methodology can ensure the accuracy of fatwa, and no individual fatwa can guarantee that this is the most accurate fatwa. Now, the methods that we have to determine a'lamiyya, that shu'al, mufid lil ilm and things like that, they don't exist anymore. One group says this is alam, the other group says this is alam. It's all the same. And then they come together and they cancel each other, and you're at liberty to follow one over the other. When we are following one mujtahid, we can do tab'eed and follow another one. Minimum requirement is that they have to be mujtahid. The requirement is that you don't know who the alam is. Yes? It's a negative, it's in negation. That as soon as one is mujtahid and you don't know the other one is alam, you can follow anybody. Sayyid Sistani says, the prerogative of choosing a muqallad is muqallid's. It's his right. There is no taqleed in that. He said that to me personally, and of course it's in his book, I think, in the Ta'liqat of Urwat al-Wuthqa, if I'm not remembering, if my memory doesn't deceive me. From the works that I read of Sheikh Makarim Shirazi, he says that as soon as you choose one, then you can't do tab'eed and you can't go to another one if he's equal, musawi. In the musawi, you don't have to know that they are musawi, you just have to know that one is not the alam, in which case you assume them as musawi. So Sheikh Makarim says that because of the rule of istishab, that none of them were hujjah on you. You chose one as hujjah. Now, one that you chose as hujjah has become ma'loomul hujjiyah. And the next one that you want to change to is mashkuk. And therefore, istishab, la tankad al-yaqinu bil-shak. You cannot break yaqeen with shak, you will apply this istishab, and you can't go to another one. Sistani says there's no problem with it, it's your choice, you can go. So long as you don't know who is the alam, you can go to another one. Now, if you look at the fatawa of Mohsin al-Hakim, Sayyid Mohsin al-Hakim, Sayyid Khomeini, and the Shuruh, and Sayyid Khuwaid, you will see that in the whole of this taqleed business, we do not have any primary texts. The Quran, Sayyid al-Khuwaid, deduces the rule of ijtihad and taqleed from two particular things. Yes? فَلَوْلَا نَفَرَ مِنْ كُلِّ فِرْقَةٍ مِنْهُمْ طَائِفَةٌ مِنْهُمْ لِيَتَفَقَّهُوا فِي الدِّينِ. That verse, and فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Yes? All these things, it's only these things. But they don't give us the parameters of taqleed. So, taqleed is actually rationally based. If you don't know something, ask somebody who does know. It's just a rational precept that is being reinforced by the Quran and Sunnah. As far as فَلِلْ عَوَامَ يُقَلِّدُ, this is a weak hadith. Now here, if you look at the works of this great ulama of ours, they will say accuracy of fatwa. Accuracy is the only requirement. Whether it's a male giving it, a female giving it, a child giving it, a grown-up giving it, all of these are societal considerations that have been inputted within the whole notion of taqleed. Otherwise, at the baseline, they are not necessary. They were all due to societal considerations. And I think Namazi has commented largely on Sayyid Khomeini's works on this. And he actually says these things. I've written a little bit on it, but it's not ready to go out yet. Now, my own understanding of taqleed is no, it should not be reliant on one person. It's highly primitive right now. It's served its days now. Alhamdulillah, they've done very, very good. May Allah commend them and bless them. Going onwards now, it should be a collective effort. And the collective effort is not only the mujtahid and the legist. It has to be a collective effort by all those who understand the issue, together with a person who is an expert at legal methodology or usul fiqh and the fiqh method. These are my own views on the matter. I've given talks on this to great length, and this fiqh workshop that we will have this summer, my paper will be on collective notion of ijtihad and how we are always going from a level of incompetency into competency, and how the reliance on the other one constantly is changing, and that ijtihad is a dynamic model.
Number 50. Okay, so the transcriber starts off with an explanation. Then I just want to be very balanced here, because we said these gatherings, we are very open here. Yoma Tubla Sarair, I would like to come from the Shia perspective here, yes, and be very open. Within the Shia scholars and ulama, there is this trend that nobody who doesn't believe Imam Ali and the children of Imam Ali has done kufr. But the difference between this kufr and takfir is that their blood does not become halal. Anybody who knows that Ali ibn Abi Talib was the best of persons, and then the transcriber has said unclear at this stage, is a kafir. According to the Shia scholars, again, unclear. I'm just being very open here, and maybe the Shias can defend themselves here. They say that they are kafir, but the notion of takfir in the present day, again unclear, that they have no hurmat, they have no protection. So the Shia scholars will say, but no, we will do mu'amalat with them, we will interact with them, we will pray with them, maybe pray jama'ah properly, maybe just pray jama'ah, again unclear, whatever. But these are their notions. So I'm just saying that whatever is happening on the Sunnah side is similarly happening on the Ahlul Shia side. The only difference is that on the Ahlul Sunnah side, the extremist action have gone one step forward and made the Zimma, the Shia, halal. That's not happened on the other side.
So this was in the Sims meeting, where we have a very balanced approach between the Sunnis and the Shias. Now if you look at Sheikh Mufid, he has said the person who does not believe in the Imam and the righteousness, they are kafir, they are dal, and they are mudil, to that effect, and they are mukhallid, and possibly mukhalladun fin nar. Yes? Sheikh Ansari also has quoted that about their status of Islam and kufr, but he said, well, because of the maslahah, we interact with them. So this is what I was trying to say. But the Ahlul Sunnah have gone a step forward, and they've said they are kafir, and you can kill them and whatever else you can do. And whereas the Shias have not gone that far. But I wanted to have a balanced opinion here, that as the Sunni say that Shias are kafir, so do the Shias say that the Sunni are kafir, and both the camps need to resolve these fundamental problems that are causing sectarian strife. By the way, going back to the taqlid issue, that if a person finds intuitively that the fatwa is wrong, so I did say in that the mujtahid bears the responsibility, provided that the muqallid does not know any better, because of all of that hadith of Imam Sadiq, when he says fi unuqi, he says yes, fi unuqihi. You know, that woman asks a man the question, Shaykh al-Dina must know this, and he gives a response, and he said ahada fi unuqiq, and Imam Sadiq says yes, this is in his neck. Because qallada means to hang in the neck, right? So he said, yes, that's in his neck. But when the person knows intuitively better, so for example, in the 70s when we had these fatwas that we can steal from the non-Muslim, and it's a form of inqab of the wealth of the 12th Imam, people in Britain were stealing from the non-Muslims. Here intuitively we knew that this was wrong. Here a person cannot go and steal and say that I'm absolved by the fatwa mechanism. The fatwa will not work, and Allah will take a person to task. He will say, forget the fatwa, you knew better that this was wrong. So that is what I was trying to tell them here. That when you know doing 3 Eids in one household is wrong, you can't put it on the neck of a mujtahid. It's your responsibility now. It's not the mujtahid's responsibility. He has done his bit, you got to do your bit. So in any case, this particular question, if you refer to Sheikh Mufid, Sheikh Ansari, I was just trying to open up the debate and look, both sides need to take a stock of what they are saying, because their statements are causing this sectarian struggle that we are undergoing now. However, the Shias nonetheless have been very controlled. They have said you can pray with the other, you can pray Jamaat with them, you can pray Jum'ah with them. The others have gone one step forward and said you can't pray with them, cut social ties with them, and you can even kill them. Yes? So I was actually giving it more to the Sunni side, that look, you guys got to deal with this. The Shias as well, that look, you guys got to deal with this one as well. That's what I was trying to say. Sheikhs, are you tired or are you okay? We continue.
Well, I'm thinking you might be tired after all that explanation. Do you wanna break?
Shall we have a little bit of break? Because I drove 6 hours from Edinburgh today.
Oh.
And in
Okay.
flurries of snow and everything to get here to meet. I was really hoping that I could have seen you here and would have had something to eat together. It would have been such an honor. So inshallah next time. Inshallah.
Inshallah, yeah. We really tried to, leave it as long as we could. So we were trying to think that yes, we'll be able to make it still. We were to make it still. Then that beast from the east, it just
But
he just got me right.
But in Edinburgh, it was only 1 degree and sunny. My goodness, the road was terrible. -5 degrees and flurries of snow, and even with all my nadaris, I couldn't speed up at 70. I had to.
Yeah.
But
however, it was all getting to Al Mahdi, but then coming back. Apparently, by that time, it's going to be much worse, much more icy.
But
so
who would have let you go back? You would have stayed here then. we wouldn't have allowed you to go back
next time.
I'm just going to have a puff. I'm just going to have a puff on this, if you don't mind. It's electronic, yes.
Yeah. So, yeah. Shall we say 8 o'clock?
Shall we?
4 to 8 now.
Is that okay? Thank you.
Yeah.
God bless you. God bless you. See you at 8, okay? Thank you, Sheikh. Ahibba. Thank you. Jazakumullah.
All right.
Thank you.
See you in 15 minutes.
See you. I'm just going to get myself some tea. Do you want some? Ali? I'll get you some. Tea, come in.